All right. Hello, everybody. Alana Kaivalia here. It is my pleasure and my honor to be here with you today. Happy Thursday for those of you watching live with me. And for those of you that will be watching the replay, thank you so much for your time. So today we're going to talk about the 5 koshas. There are 5 layers to our body. Each has a very important role to play in our overall health and well-being. We're going to talk about how we can treat each of those layers, how to discover what might be going on in those layers, and why continuing our learning process is actually a very powerful way to keep up our health, our overall well-being, and maintain our zest and joy for life. All right, everybody, it is so good to be here with you today. As always, I have my trusty Star Wars tarot mug and my beautiful pink carnations here in the background. Most of you know by now that my husband is my set designer, so he put these flowers together for me yesterday. I think the color is gorgeous and perfect for this summer. Quick note, by the way, today is an important lunation. We have a new moon in Cancer as well as a partial solar eclipse. So if you want to check out that blog, go ahead and click the link that I'm going to put below for those of you that are on Facebook. For those of you on Instagram, because I'm live there too, that link is in my bio, and I put a post up about that yesterday. So we are entering into eclipse season, and I want you all to be keenly aware of how that affects you as yogis and as perhaps budding astrologers, because I know many of you study astrology with me as well. So our first one is tomorrow. We are going to have a lunar eclipse. That's an eclipse of the moon, I think on the 27th. And then we have another even bigger solar eclipse happening in August. I believe that's the 11th, if I got all my dates right. So I'm going to be writing about this, posting it on the blogs, posting it about it here on social media. So please stay tuned to that. Because as you know, I do teach yoga, yes. But what I'm really interested in is modern mysticism. So we are all modern mystics, and I'm doing my best to help you round out your skills as a modern mystic to step into the role of a spiritual leader. And that actually requires us to know far more than just yoga. Yoga is an important piece of the puzzle. Obviously, that's what we're here for. That's what we love. That's the gateway many of us go into. But there are other modalities like astrology, like working with the chakras, like the tarot, and other things that are going to make us more well-rounded spiritual leaders, which is what our clients, our students, the world that we live in today is calling us to do. So pay attention to the full moon, or rather new moon today. And I'm going to have another sip of coffee. And let's dive into the koshas. So perhaps some of you have heard about the koshas. The koshas are the layers of the body, and I'm going to give a little bit of a lecture on these 5 layers. So if you are new to the koshas, then you are in the right place. So kosha, the actual word, means sheath, and we can think of it like an onion. So the way that an onion has layers and is easily peeled, we operate in the same manner, okay? So this is yet another way to kind of organize our own physical reality. Chakras organize our psychological reality, so that's a little bit different. But the koshas organize our life experience, our physical reality here in the world. And we have 5 distinct layers, and you will all recognize them because all of you have them. And if you understand how they operate and how they affect one another from the inside out and vice versa, then you can actually see which layer might need some additional work or some additional help. Way I like to think of these layers, I gave the image of an onion because that's really easy, but I prefer to think of it actually as a light bulb with some extra coverings over it. So that's the metaphor I'm going to use to describe them to you today. So if we can imagine a light bulb in the very center, right? And the light bulb is probably the most important part. This is our soul, what in Sanskrit we would call the Atman. So the Atman is the highest and the deepest part of us. It is the part of us that is connected to something much greater than us. It is that small drop of the ocean that is the same as the great vast ocean that is all around us. It's that part of the source that exists within us, okay? And it's called the Atman in Sanskrit. Think of it as a light bulb, and that light is always on within you. It is always shining. And it's just that sometimes we can't see it, okay? Because there are layers that go over it. So if you imagine you have a light bulb, and if you put, let's say, a scarf over the top of it, it's going to diffuse the light a little bit, and it's going to make the light a little dimmer. You will still recognize that there's a light bulb underneath, but you won't really see the actual brightness of the light bulb because there's a scarf over it. Now imagine we throw a sheet over that. So perhaps there's still some light emanating from the light bulb and the scarf and the sheet, and perhaps you can feel some warmth, and you can kind of guess that there's a light bulb on the inside, but it's starting to get a little harder to discern. Perhaps we throw a light blanket over that. So now we have 3 layers, okay? And you probably don't see any light anymore. Maybe you feel some heat. Maybe you see a small bump where the light bulb is. You'd have to guess, you have to make a really good guess to know if that's what's going on underneath there. And then let's put a heavier blanket over the top. Okay, we're like snuggling up for winter. And now it's almost impossible to tell that there was a light bulb there at all. That's 4 layers. And if we throw a big, nice, fluffy duvet over the top of that, then we have 5 layers over the top of this light bulb, and we would never know that there's a light bulb underneath at all, okay? This is the way that most of us exist, and this is the way that most of us see each other. We can't see the light on the inside because these layers are actually heavy and dense, and it prevents us not only from seeing the light in others, but from realizing that light is always on within us. It prevents us from recognizing that light. And I know it's actually not the correct translation of namaste, but I know many of us translate namaste as the light in me bows to the light in you. That's a bit of a flowery new age way to translate it. Namaste technically just means salutations to thee, period. But that flowery translation is really nice, and it is a nod to that Atman, that soul force that is within us all. Okay, so that word Atman that we use, Barbara put some light bulbs in the notes, that's cute. So that word Atman that we use, it's really a general term, okay? It doesn't point to any specific kind of soul or source, really whatever belief system you have that allows you to understand that you are a part of a greater whole, that you are connected to something bigger. The word Atman is going to describe that. It's going to describe that connection or that part for you. And we can think of it as a light. It's a nice way to think of it, right? That there is this light within us, and we share it with everybody. It's like if we're in a lecture hall and there are many lights on the ceiling, it's all the same light shining through. Each individual bulb is individual and different, but the light that comes through those bulbs is all the same. So as you look out over your yoga students in your classes today or this week, perhaps see them as light bulbs, right? See them as that effulgent self that is there. And our work as yoga teachers really is always to see that our students' light is on. It is there. And then to give them the tools in order to reveal that light. So I'm going to coach you through some of the ways you can reveal that light today, because it is possible to reveal it. So my original metaphor with this light bulb included the scarf and then the sheet and then the light blanket and then the heavier blanket and then the duvet over the top. But imagine if instead of those scarf, sheets, blankets we threw over the top of the light bulb, imagine if we could lighten those up and actually make it saran wrap. 5 layers of saran wrap, really transparent material, would still have all the sheaths. It would still make us whole and complete human beings, but we would always be able to see that effulgent light. So what we want to create is more transparency in these layers of the body, so that that light is always easily seen by others and easily felt by ourselves. Because connection to that light in a more constant and consistent way, that is yoga, right? And you are yoga. Yoga's already done. That light is always on. You are already connected. That is your natural state. That is who you are. It's not a matter of getting yoga. There's nowhere to get yoga. You have it already. The work is really to simply realize that that is always your natural state, and to make that realization your new normal. And what that does for you is not put you in this like blissful, disconnected kind of attitude or way of being. It actually allows you to participate more fully in your life. It actually allows you to say yes to every adventure, yes to every challenge, yes to every obstacle, no matter how crappy or difficult it may be. So we want to get to that state of yoga as our new normal, as easily and as quickly as we can, because being in that consistently connected and that consistently self-realized state helps you make the right decisions. Okay, it creates good decision making. That's the benefit of a constant state of yoga, not like, blissfully disconnected from everything. It's not it. You're participating fully in life and you're making decisions that always help you to lean toward the light a little bit. And those decisions that are right for you, that are going to help you lean, they're individual and they're different for everybody. So having your own connection to your own light allows you to make the best decisions for you, to live the happiest, most fulfilled life possible here and now. Sounds pretty good, right? So there are many tools that we can use to get to this place. And you know some of these tools. I teach you many of these tools in my Modern Mystics courses, in my yoga teacher training here on the live every Thursday, and all the resources that I put out for you, because there's not one way to get there, right? I can't say, oh, this is the tool you need. That would be ridiculous and a bit dogmatic, and I don't really go for that. There are many different tools, and I want to teach you as many of them as possible, because the ones that work for you are different, but also the ones that work for your students will be different. So the more ways in which you have to connect people to their inner light, the better. All right, so let's get down to the layers, shall we? Hopefully all of that groundwork makes sense and gives us a good foundation to progress. Okay, so we know the light is on the inside. We know the layers cover over it. We want to create more transparency. So we're going to start with the outermost layer and work our way in. And I'm going to pause for a sip of coffee, because why not? It's nice to do a dramatic pause anyway. All right, so we're going to start on the outside and work our way in. The outermost layer, what I'm going to call the most gross layer. And I don't mean gross as in ew, I mean gross as in physical, tangible. It's our actual physical body, okay? It's our skin, our muscles, our bones, the physical hard stuff that makes up this physical body, this form that you see and interact with all day long. So that's the most physical layer. In Sanskrit, it's called Pranamaya Kosha. Okay, Anna, that first part of the word, means food. This is your food body. That'll give you a hint in a second. Maya, for those of you who have studied a little bit of yoga philosophy, will know that Maya is the great illusion. Okay, all of these layers have the term Maya in them, meaning that all of these layers are basically illusions preventing you from seeing and realizing that great light within, right? And to make those layers, that illusion, more transparent, doesn't mean they go away. It means suddenly you can see the light. So Pranamaya Kosha. Kosha is the sheath, it's the layer. Maya is that illusion that we're trying to make more transparent, and Anna is food. That gives us a great hint, because your physical body is made of food. It just is. Think about it, right? You eat at least 3 times a day, hopefully. And depending on what you eat has a huge determinant on your physical health. There's no 2 ways around that. You don't have to be a doctor to understand that. Everybody understands that. That is the way it is. You eat, your eating becomes your physical body, and that actually translates into your physical level of health. Food cannot be underestimated. Okay, so we don't want to underestimate the power of food. Now, what I'm not going to do is tell you how to eat. What I will do is please encourage you to do the research necessary to eat the way that is best for you and your body, which may not be the philosophical way that you've been encouraged to eat. It may not be the ideological way you've been encouraged to eat. But this is not about philosophy. This is not about ideology. This is about your physical health. So I want you to do appropriate research, because I can tell you from personal experience, there was a way that I thought I was supposed to eat as a yogi, and it actually made me very ill. And it was the way that I was supposed to eat as this person, this physical human, that made me healthy enough to be able to sit here and teach you yoga today. Every decision is going to be a challenging one. Every decision is going to have positive and negative consequences. Every single decision you make. The best decisions you can make are the ones that help you lean toward the light. This is in all circumstances, including your food body. So yeah, I mean, your physical body is also affected by physical activity. It is, I mean, you know, but more like strength training, things that build your bones and your muscles. So this isn't necessarily asana. Asana has some effect on the physical layer, the Pranamaya Kosha, but its profundity is actually more so related to the next layer. Okay, so we'll go to the next layer now. Next layer is Pranamaya Kosha. So not Pranayama Kosha. Pranayama is breath work. It is one of the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. It's found in the Yoga Sutra. This is Pranamaya Kosha. Remember, all of these layers are going to end in Maya Kosha. That transparent, we want to create more transparency in the Maya, that illusion, the sheath, the Kosha. So this is the Pranamaya Kosha. This is the layer that is made up of your physiological body, all of your moving parts, the prana, the life force that exists within you. So functionally, that's your endocrine system, your hormones, your lymph, your blood, your respiration, your breathing. All things that move within you are your Pranamaya Kosha. So asana has a tremendous effect on this. This is where asana really shines. It has great effect on the endocrine system, and it has a great effect on your lymph. But it also has a great effect on your breathing, right? If you're doing Ujjayi breathing during your asana, or if you're actually practicing pranayama, then your Pranamaya Kosha will be positively affected. So let's move to the next layer, which is the Mano-Maya Kosha. And Mano means mind, and in this case, it's your emotional mind, okay? The jumpy mind, the mind that has all the thoughts that you can't seemingly control, the reactive mind, the mind that wants this, that doesn't want that, the mind that is disappointed when it doesn't get its way. That's the Mano-Maya Kosha. And this layer is deeply affected by our ability to serve others. So for those of us that have Mano-Maya Kosha imbalances, and I should talk a little bit about the imbalances of the first two. So Anamaya Kosha, that's easy. And imbalances of your physical body, broken bones, cuts, scrapes, even your posture, if you have a hunchback or if you have any kind of degenerative postural issues, really physical stuff is going to be the ailments of the physical body. Your physiological body, your Pranamaya Kosha, your endocrine system. So anybody with thyroid issues or adrenal issues or even fertility issues, that's an endocrine related problem. That's your Pranamaya Kosha, okay? The ways to help fix that as far as yoga is concerned are through asana and pranayama. Now, it's not going to fix the whole thing because we have many more layers. So the Mano-Maya Kosha is that chatty mind, which is often very self-absorbed. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is self-absorbed. I'm not calling anybody self-absorbed. I'm saying this mind by itself, on its own, no matter who you are, has a level of self-absorption. It is really concerned with your own comfort level. It is really concerned with how you're doing. It is constantly looking for how to preserve itself, okay? And when that goes badly, when we have an ailment of this mind, we run into things like depression and anxiety. So ways to alleviate that in terms of yoga, right? Because there's other ways to treat depression and anxiety, right? A doctor is going to give a certain prescription for depression and anxiety. A doctor is going to give a certain prescription for endocrine issues or for a broken bone. The yoga teacher is going to offer something else. This is complementary. This is not in lieu of, this is not the only way to heal thyself, my friends. This is one of the ways you and I can contribute to general overall health and well-being as spiritual leaders. Does that make sense? We don't want to be the only road to healing. We want to be a complement to the roads to healing that are already out there, because when we can heal, when we can work on our own health from all these different ways, better health is going to manifest. So there are ways to treat anxiety and depression, absolutely, but a way for the yogi to help alleviate anxiety and depression, one of those ways is to actually do selfless service. If the problem of the mind is self-absorption, get out of there. Turn your attention to something else. Turn your attention to others. Volunteer to walk dogs at the local shelter. Help children in need. Help your family. Cook dinner for your loved one. Cook something that they want to eat, not you. Get yourself out of your own mind. Serve others. Break that cycle of absorption, which is really the ego speaking. And that is mano. That is the Pranamaya Kosha. So we're 3 layers in. We've got 2 layers to go. So the next layer is the Vijnana Kosha. That's a tricky one, Sanskrit-wise. So the Vijnana is the intellect, okay? The intellectual mind. So this is the rational mind. This is the really clear thinking mind. This is not the emotional mind of a moment ago. This is the discerning mind, the mind that is able to learn things, the mind that is able to take things into account, the mind that is able to be more objective. When this is challenged, when there's an ailment of the Vijnana Kosha, then what we're going to run into, interestingly, is apathy. We're not going to be engaged with life. This is like this is what my friends call drones. Okay, so drones are like not real drones that fly around and take pictures from above. Drones are like the people who do their work, but they're not engaged in it. They just go for the paycheck. They sit there for 8 hours and then they leave, not really questioning things, or they participate in their daily life and they're not really looking for anything different. They're not really interested in what's next. They're not engaged in any learning. So that kind of apathy comes with an imbalance of the Vijnana Kosha, and that occurs when we're not really doing what we're passionate about, okay? When we're not doing what we're interested in, when we're not pursuing learning. So the remedy for apathy, this ailment of the Vijnana Kosha, this second most deep layer, is to learn. And this is very much a part of the yoga practice, svadhyaya. So svadhyaya is a term, we find it actually several times in the Yoga Sutras. Bonus points to anybody who knows exactly how many times we see it in the Yoga Sutras. But it is a part of the Kriya Yoga path, and it is a part of the Ashtanga Yoga path. So Patanjali repeats himself on the point of svadhyaya. He's very clear that there's something about this that's really important, and it is. The first prefix of that Sanskrit term, sva, means self, and then the dhyaya means knowledge. That's where we get our term dhyana, and eventually jnana, and eventually gnosis. So to know thyself. And this doesn't mean to study things for studying's sake. This means to study things that help you achieve that highest and greatest potential, what in astrology we call our ascendant. So to reach that highest and greatest potential, you got to do some work. You got to figure out who you really are, what really stokes your fire, what you're really passionate about and interested in, and go for that. Now, I'm imagining that 26 minutes in with me here, you're probably fairly interested in yoga. That's just a guess. You're probably fairly interested in healing and helping others. You're probably fairly interested in the ways of the modernistic. And so you are going to need to pursue education in those areas in order to keep yourself engaged. The good news is, and to be perfectly frank, this is why I'm still here 20 years later, is that yoga is so big. You're never going to run out of stuff to study. you know, you're never going to run out of stuff to study. You're never going to lose interest because there's so many things to dig into and to refine and to enjoy the nuances of. And trust me, I've studied a lot of different things. I have a very curious mind. This is one of the things that I really enjoy. And I have studied other things that I have gotten to the end of and been like, okay, well, I guess I know everything about that. I'm good. It's not going to happen, you know, with yoga and mysticism. There will always be something for you to sink your teeth into. So it's a very exciting course of study. So way to go. Good choice, guys. And I have so many ways for you to study. So I'm going to put some links below to some resources that I would love for you to check out. For those of you on Instagram, these links are actually already in my bio. So go check them out. The first one I want to put down there for you, for if you are interested, if you feel this sense of apathy, if you feel like on this layer, this Vijnana Kosha, you're not quite learning enough. You're not quite getting that learning done. You're tending towards this apathetic mode of like, nothing is really interesting. I'm not engaged in life. This is incredibly detrimental. Okay, this is incredibly detrimental because if you have an imbalance on this deep layer, it will affect every layer above it. These layers do not exist in a vacuum. You can't have apathy and have great posture. You can't. You can't have apathy and not have some level of anxiety or depression. You know this already. I know this already. Okay. It's just that most of the time we don't look deeply enough. We think that our bad posture is just from hunching all day at our desk. It's not. Right? We try to treat the bad posture, but it keeps coming back because we're not looking deeply enough to find out the actual root of the problem and which layer it is rooted at. So links below to start to counteract this apathy in yourself and your students, to really move forward, to start to take hold of life and live it with as much zest and verve as possible, to say yes to your adventure. All right. So first thing I want to put below is my teacher training link. Okay, so I'm going to put a link below for a webinar that happens every single Wednesday, and it's going to teach you more about my online teacher training, which is extremely comprehensive. Okay, I'm nothing if not an academic. We use university grade software to deliver this teacher training, and we hold you accountable for your learning all the way through. I have a team of mentors that works with you. You upload videos. We give you individualized feedback. We watch every single video. We watch you teach a 30-minute class. We watch you teach a 60-minute class. At no point are you left behind. You are held accountable for your learning. It is incredibly comprehensive. If you went through a 200-hour training and you're thinking to yourself, what's next? This is a great next step for you. I also want to put a link below for some information regarding my chakra course. And it's going to be another webinar. Okay, so this is going to introduce you to some deeper elements of the chakras, because a lot of us got some surface layer advice or knowledge of the chakras. Oh yeah, they have pretty colors and you do standing poses for the root chakra. Trust me, they are so much bigger than this. And there's so much more to the chakras. They are truly our yoga psychology. So yoga is a psychology, and the way that we decode the psychology of yoga really in our body is through the chakras. So if that's something that's interesting to you, check that out below. And then I think I'll go ahead and put the link to my astrology webinar as well, because this is another modality. If you're like, you know what, I know everything there is to know about yoga, I'm all set there, then let's give you another modality that's not only going to give you another stream of income, but that's also going to give you a massively impressive tool in your mystics toolkit to serve yourself and your students. So the training below that I'm going to put is, it teaches you how astrology and yoga go together and how you can start to weave astrology into your yoga practice now. Super relevant because we're right in the middle of eclipse season. This stuff is happening now. You got a lot to talk about. So check any one of those things out. Instagrammers, it's already there in my bio. And look, this is going to help you on this layer of the Vijnana Kosha, Swadhyaya, because self-study, studying these things that not only serve your own highest interests, but the interests of those that you serve, that's a way to counteract apathy, to reduce anxiety and depression as a result, to stand up straighter and taller, to walk into the room with more confidence, and to have the time and energy to actually pay attention to your physical health. All these layers affect each other. Well, we got one more layer to go. So our last and final layer is called the Ananda Maya Kosha. Now, Ananda is a word I'm sure you've heard of. Maybe you've heard it pronounced Ananda. It's not how it's pronounced. Ananda is the correct pronunciation of the term. It means bliss. This is your blissful layer. This is the part of you that truly experiences what Patanjali calls Santosha. Santosha is contentment. So contentment really comes from grace. And my definition of grace is the moment that you know something greater is working through you. Whatever that greater is, even if it's your own highest self, the source, whatever you call it, grace is the moment you know something bigger is working through you, and you got this, right? You got this. You got all the confidence in the world when you are blissful, when you are in touch with this part of yourself. And it's easy to see why it's the Ananda Maya Kosha. It's snuggled right up to the light. It's coating the light bulb, right? It's like that part of you that is so close, that's so connected to source. Now, the challenge at this layer, right, the thing that gets us kind of fudged up at this layer is not believing there is a source, and not believing that we have one, not believing that there's something bigger than us out there. I read a brilliant quote yesterday, actually, and I'm sad that I can't remember it. I can't remember the quote exactly, and I don't even remember who said it, which, that drives me nuts, especially as an academic. So I'm going to try to research that and get back to you guys on that one. But the essence of the quote is that when you look really hard, anytime you're learning something, and this was in reference really to science, when you're learning a lot about science, when you get halfway, when you're drinking from that cup of knowledge, halfway through, you don't believe in anything. You're like, belief is over for me. But when you're finished with that cup, at the bottom of the glass is the source, is divinity. And I just thought, oh my God, that's beautiful. And I remember very much experiencing that for myself. Oddly, even in my studies of mythology, which is the deep study of religion and psychology. I mean, you'd think I'd be a massive believer of all the things, and for a long time I was not because of my studies. But then at some point, things shifted, and I suddenly once again believed in all of the things. So I hope that this is something that you can come to as well, if for some reason you're only halfway through the glass. But if it's not you, if it doesn't describe you, if you're like, man, I believe in all this stuff, awesome, then recognize that your students and other people out there don't have a connection. They don't feel like they're connected to anything. They don't feel like there's a sense of something bigger out there, no matter what construct they might find it to be or think that it is. And that creates disconnection. And disconnection is absolutely, without a doubt, the greatest malady of our time. It is the greatest suffering that any of us can know. Disconnection. Now, you might hear that and think, wow, that's really trite. I can think of a lot of really horrible forms of suffering and pain and things that people are experiencing in the world that are awful. Yeah, pain and suffering, and there are things that people are experiencing that are truly awful, but the way that they get through them, because life happens. It's not always sparkles, rainbows, and butterflies. There are not people who are having a good time right now. There are people who are suffering physically and emotionally and culturally tremendously. And I'm not diminishing that at all. I 100% recognize that. But the way that they are going to be able to survive those terrible things is because of connection. It's because they feel connected to others, because they feel connected to those around them, because they feel connected to source. That's how anybody will endure the greatest suffering. You don't have that, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Whew, makes me a little emotional. So, greatest disease we must overcome is disconnection. Disconnection is at the root of our greatest fear. It's at the root of our greatest potential suffering. And this is the true affliction of Pranamaya Kosha. And the way to overcome that is faith. Now, there is a beautiful, beautiful translation of the Sanskrit word for faith. And this is really one of my favorites. So get ready, guys. So the word is shraddha. Shraddha. That's the word for faith in Sanskrit. And my favorite definition of this word, shraddha, is that it is the contents of your heart. Shraddha, or faith, is the contents of your heart. So if you were to do a little meditation and go inside your heart space, metaphorically, obviously, hang out in there, and you can make it a gorgeous room, you can make it a simple room, an easy space, a space that you know, a space that you dream of. Who's in there with you, right? When you get inside your heart space, who is in there with you? What is in there with you? And that is where you find connection. That's where it starts, knowing what the contents of your heart are. And when you are fueled by faith, then you can do anything. When you are fueled by faith, you easily know what your passion is. And apathy, that problem at the level of the Vijnana Kosha, is not a problem. When you are fueled by faith, then anxiety and depression may come in waves, but they are far more easily dissipated when you have a sense of connection. Physical maladies may come, but they are more easily righted when you have a sense of connection and purpose. I'm not saying it's the cure-all for everything. I'm saying it's the foundation for the greatest cures that you may encounter in your lifetime. And without it, all of these things become much more difficult. If you do not feel connected, then it is easy to let your posture go. It is easy to not take care of yourself, because what are you worth? If you're not connected to anything or anyone, why would you eat well? Why would you stand tall and proudly? So when we look at our students, at ourselves, and when we consider our greatest potential health and well-being, especially for those of us that are yogis and on the path to becoming spiritual leaders, those of us that take our modern mysticism very seriously, we are going to have different answers than whoever else our clients might go to. Okay, their doctors are going to give them different answers. Their psychologists are going to give them different answers. We're going to dig a little bit deeper to find out what layer this malady is actually starting at. Because if we can get to the deepest layer, if we can figure out the deepest layer at which this physical discomfort is rooted, then we can actually give this person a different kind of opportunity for health and well-being. That's really exciting. That's really exciting. It's really beautiful. It's really transforming. And it's something that's going to help us do our part to raise the level of health, well-being, consciousness, awareness in our world today. You have that responsibility. You have that opportunity. You have that potential. So, guys, it's a light Thursday live for y'all, a little light discussion. Hope you've enjoyed it. These are the koshas. Okay, these are another way to understand how health and well-being operate within our physical body. For me, a physical malady is never merely physical. It's always worth looking at the deeper layers to see where it's truly rooted. Because if you don't catch that deeper root, whatever's on the surface is only going to perpetuate. It's only going to come back. As a person with a chronic illness, you guys know I struggle with my thyroid stuff. I know this to be true. So check it out for yourselves, y'all. I have lots and lots of resources for you. I also talk about the koshas. I overlooked another resource. I also talk about the koshas pretty extensively in my book, Yoga Beyond the Mat. And I talk about them in the way that I just spoke about them to you. So I want to put a link to my book, Yoga Beyond the Mat, below. I also have a course that takes you through the book. So I'll put a link to that too. Why not check it out? right? One of the deepest layers we have thrives on learning, and learning particularly about what you're passionate about. So if this is your passion, if this is what drives your soul forward, never stop learning, everybody. It will allow you to have a greater life experience, one where you say yes to your adventure and live life to your fullest potential. So you guys, it's been a lot of fun having you here today. Thank you very much for being live with me. It's been an honor and a pleasure to talk to you more about the koshas. I hope that you learned a lot. I hope that you took great notes. I hope that you'll take advantage of the resources below, my Facebook friends, and my resources in the link in my bio, Instagram friends. And no matter where you are, you know where to find me. And I will see you soon, either here on Facebook, on my website, alanakay.com, in my private Facebook group for Modern Mystics. I'll post that link below too, because we do a lot of discussion in there. And regardless, I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and keep studying. Bye, everybody.